Welcome back, everybody. We're out here at 715 Garage. We're getting ready to start on our first project on the Nova together. So, today, first thing we're going to do is we're going to pull this engine out. What we got to do, as you can see, we are messing around, working on some shimming. I wouldn't really say practicing, because the problem is we had these hooker manifolds here. And I had bought these as soon as they came out, like right away. So, learning now that these manifolds do not fit on the Nova regularly. So that's kind of what we were doing there, just putting some shims in there. They're just tacked on, nothing serious. We were just trying to get the fitment, because they hit everything. They hit the steering box, they hit our upper control arms when you put them in there at the stock engine mount height. So, we were just test fitting, and what happens is when you put the driver's side on, we'll hit this top corner bolt very easily. So, that was part of our decision on what we're doing. Instead of messing around with motor mounts, cutting things, moving things, our transmission now sits too high where it's going to end up hitting the floor or the firewall. So, we're going to get rid of these engine mounts. I'm going to cut them out today. I got some brand new ones. We're going to put them back in, get them screwed in, or bolted in like normal, like from the factory. And then, in this box here, we have some twin turbo headers, up and forward facing ones. So that's going to be our big project to get today kicked off. So first up, we're going to take off this hood, we're going to take off our radiator core support, and let's get to it. Alright, so we got the intake manifold off, we got our radiator core support off, hood's off. Yes, next up here we're going to get off this passenger side manifold. We'll take off our little elbow for the turbo we had started for the big single. Then we will get the front end of this car jacked up, because we can't fit the engine hoist underneath it. We're a little short on clearance underneath here. So, next step to getting this thing out. So, let's get started on project round 2. Alright, so engine out. So there's nothing too special about this engine. As of right now, it's just stock bottom end. We've added a few of the necessary goodies on here to be a turbo car. We have our Holley retrofit oil pan, tapped for turbo drain plugs on each side. And then we got our ICT billet, little adapter there to run both of our feeds. Got our engine mount plates. There is also head studs in this car, no longer head bolts. Right now we just have factory water pump, which is what I plan on running unless otherwise needed. But main portion of this video today, we're going to take out these other engine mounts that we had kind of rigged in there to try to just do some test fitting and see what we could do to try to place this engine in here with those the Holley manifolds that we had on there. So I guess we'll have to get out the cutting wheel on the grinder. We'll start cutting these things out of here. Also, you can see a one-time cross member had been cut and lowered for a deeper oil pan that at one time must have been needed, but no longer is. So, all right, let's get on to phase 2. Alright, got them old engine mounts cut out, sprayed a little bit of paint on them just to protect it. I mean, I'm sure that we're going to end up repainting this front clip anyway, so I just splashed a little bit on there, cover the bare metal up. So, while we wait for that to dry, then afterwards, we got out the old Rusty, and then we can install the new hotness. So, in the meantime, let's come on over here. Next part of this build is when we get that engine drop back in on those new engine mounts. We got these nice compact up and forward turbo headers that we are hoping are going to fit and clear without any issues. I bought some with these nice short front ends. I bought up the shortest front end that I could on them, just because I feel like that's going to allow for a lot more ease of manipulating your piping up front. Because some of these up and forward manifolds, I mean, you might have another 3 to 6 inches up here on some of them by looking at the pictures online. I mean, I don't specifically know myself, as this is my first ever set that I've bought, but you know, it's going to allow for a lot more ease of fitment, I do believe. So, the kit we got came with both sides, some V-band clamps, a couple of V-bands to add on. For those V-bands we will not be using, I have over here these adapters that'll be welded onto our piping to the turbos. These go from a 3-inch down to a 2 1/4, I believe that it is. Because our turbos have V-band ends on the back housings. So this is going to make it so that we can just downsize right out of our headers, right to our 2 1/4. And I also think that that's going to help build up some exhaust speed to spin these turbos faster or spool them up quicker. You know, kind of smaller ones, I think that they'll spool plenty fast as it is. I mean, hey, it doesn't hurt a little bit. Also in the kit, came with some studs to put in the heads versus bolts. So we have some manifold studs here. We'll see if we want to use the studs, or if we have the room to use the studs, or if we're going to end up using the bolts, because I can see how studs could interfere quite a bit with our upper control arms or our power steering box, which have been our problem childs in the past here. So we'll get to that point when we decide, as we put on these engine mounts and set this engine back inside the bay here, and hopefully this stuff fits and lines up, and we can mess around a little bit later on in this video where we're going to set our turbos inside the engine. Alrighty, stay in here. Alright, we're getting these engine mounts bolted up. I got the first one in, and time for the second one. Putting these in is kind of a pain in the butt. I'm going to show you a little something that makes life a little bit easier to get those nuts in there. I'm sure a lot of people know this trick, but I went way too many years without ever seeing this or learning this, and it makes everything so much easier. Alright, one of the easiest ways, it's the only way to get this nuts in here, is to go up through this hole. There's also another small hole in the back, but the angle on this particular occasion doesn't really work because you hit one of the grease fittings on our lower control arm here. So my only way to get these nuts through here is through this hole right here. So what I am going to be doing today is we take a little piece of blue shop towel and your nut, put it in there, which creates a nice snug fit. Makes it so that it doesn't fall out when we go to reach through here. So now we can line that up a lot easier and hold that nut in there without it falling out. Let's get back to it. Alright, so I did a little off the camera work. I figured, nah, I don't want to bore you guys with all these time lapses over and over and over again and make that all of these videos are. So, slapped her back together. So you got a Radiator Sport back on. These new forward facing headers allow for a ton of room. All that clearance issues that we used to have are now eliminated. So this is back down to the stock engine height, which at stock engine height before those Holley hookers hit right here. It was the biggest pain and the biggest nightmare, and kind of probably part of the thing that kind of deferred me from continuing work on this car for a while, because everything I did seemed to just fail. But here we are getting back on the right track again. Like I said, we have this intake manifold here is not going to be what we were using. However, we can set her on there to get a better look. What we're going to be doing is we are getting the Holley lower ram with the tick sandwiched intercooler inside of it, which is going to add a decent amount of height to our engine, as that Holley is about, I think about 12 3/8 of an inch tall, and I think this one's about 9. So it's really going to change the whole look of this engine. It's going to look a lot larger. But here's one of our turbos. Again, these are the VS Racing 67 millimeter in the front, 62 in the rear. So I imagine we will probably be putting these guys right up here somewhere. Have a 90 come off here and set them up right behind the headlights. So we still have plenty of room for a radiator. We'll have plenty of room to set these in here. So, first day of progress, we're getting back at it. Hopefully things continue to go this smooth. We had a little bit of a battle. Had to do a little wallowing out on the holes on the engine mounts. But enlarged them up a little bit, and she sat right in there. Looks like it might be a tight fit for when we go to do our turbo oil drains, as they are relatively close to where the engine mount is. But I think if I trim a little bit of a corner off that engine mount, that we'll have no problem fitting a 90 on there and bringing it back up. So, alright everybody, well, that's the end of episode 2 here. Hope you all stuck in and enjoyed the content, and we're going to continue to make these as I do every step on this car until we're finished with it. So, alright, thanks for watching. Have a good one.